Hello and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Luan and I am from the beautiful Cape Town, South Africa. I will be presenting to you today and I would love to say hi to all of you. I'd like to see where you are, where you're joining from. So please write your name and where you are saying hello from in the chat. It would be absolutely lovely to say hello to you. So as mentioned, my name is Luan. I'm with the TEFL Academy, and we are going to be having a wonderful time together today, learning more about a very important topic, one that I know lots of you have joined for a very particular reason. So just a reminder to those who have just come in, name and where you're from so that we can say hello to you. And while we wait for those names to come in, just a little bit of information about what's going to be happening today, especially if you've joined us for the very first time. And those of you who have joined many times before, welcome back. So today's topic, very particular. We will only be discussing this particular topic today. About 30 minutes of the presentation is me telling you about this particular situation and topic, and thereafter there'll be another 30 minutes where you can ask all those questions that you've been waiting to ask. Please note that only questions related to today's topic will be answered in this webinar, and other academic questions can of course be sent to tutor support, where tutors like myself, we are just waiting for those questions to come in so that we can help you. Also, just a reminder that as I will be opening Q&A a little bit later, I'm going to urge you to hold on to those questions just while I'm doing the presentation so that later on when I get to Q&A, I do not miss any of those very important questions, and I want to answer as many of them as possible. So I see tons and tons of messages have already come in. We have visitors from we have Geeta, hello to you. We have visitors from the UK. I like to say visitors. I don't want to call you viewers today. You're visitors. We're visiting together. We also have visitors from Kimberley, South Africa, Turkey. Hi. Afghanistan, Geeta, that's amazing. And we have Bradley from Cape Town. Welcome to you all. And then if you've just joined, please, yes, name and location in the chat. It's always so fun to say hi. And also just something so important to note that in this world of TEFL, you're just so used to greeting people from all over the world, but it never gets old. It's really fun. Hello to Japan, who's just come in. All right, so as mentioned, very particular topic today, and as you can see, it's all about Assignment A on the Level 5 course. So those of you who are doing the Level 5 course, of course, there are 3 assignments, and today's webinar is very much centered on Assignment A, right? And it's going to be interesting because I know that those of you who are starting with the assignments, they might seem a bit daunting. If, like me, you haven't been a student yourself for a long time, then the concept of an assignment can be quite overwhelming. But I know that after today, it's going to make a bit more sense and you'll be ready to get started. So let's get started. All right, so just as we mentioned earlier, the assignment that we are discussing today is Assignment A. It's the new format, new templates, the copy leak system to check for plagiarism, and also AI. That was all implemented in December last year. So this webinar is very much particularly focused on the new assignment format. All right, so yeah, why do we do the assignment, right? So the assignment checks your ability to select and teach level appropriate vocabulary. So as teachers, we know that we have students of different levels, and very often you'll have one class and all those students are a very particular level. So we know that already the work we teach has got to be appropriate for the level. So this assignment really checks your ability to see what sort of vocabulary needs to be taught to a particular level. Also, we'll be looking at your ability to create reading tasks for stages 3 and 4 of a reading lesson, and we'll look at those stages in a minute. And then also the ability to create speaking tasks. I still see those names coming in. Hello to you if you've just joined from Cape Town and also the USA. It's wonderful to have you with us today. All right, so let's just quickly get to our next slide. And something important before you start the assignment, do not be like me and just jump ahead and straight into things. Please read the instructions first, right? Read them, read the case study, and make sure that you download all the templates. So they are very, very important templates to download. They're simplified, they've been streamlined, and they're just a lot more user-friendly for our students. So it's vital that you read these instructions and the case study. Download the templates. They are in MS Word format by default. If you do not have MS Word, there are free options for you to explore, like LibreOffice, OpenOffice, Google Docs. Those are all free options, free alternatives that you can use. If you are a little concerned about whether or not they distort the template somewhat, just send us a ticket to tutor support. We will have a look just at the template itself, and then we'll let you know if that is okay to accept. But that's if you are concerned about one of the free options distorting the template somewhat. Right, so that's just a little bit of work to do before you start the assignment. But something very important to remember is that the assignment is based on a reading lesson, right? So I think that the first step in this webinar, and something very important for you and your research, is to understand the format of a reading lesson, the structure of a reading lesson. And remember that this is included in the online course content. So I will not just be revealing it here today. You can actually go onto the online course and find all this information also, right? So we've got to look at the stages of a reading lesson, because the assignment, the various parts of the assignment are based on various stages of a reading lesson. So let's look at those all important stages, right? So the very first stage is your lead in or your warmer. So what is the purpose of this stage? To introduce your students to the topic. Get them warmed up, get them interested in the topic. The very next stage of a reading lesson is the vocabulary pre-teach stage. Remember, earlier I mentioned to you that when we teach very particular levels, we are teaching very particular levels of vocabulary. And that is the second stage of a reading lesson. And lots of people tend to ask, but why pre-teach the vocabulary? This is part of their learning experience. Well, we want them to focus on and enjoy the skill of reading, right? So we remove the obstacles. We teach those difficult words in advance so that once they read the text, they get to enjoy it. Right, so we've got two stages so far that we mentioned, the lead-in or the warm-up. The very next stage is called the vocabulary pre-teach stage. The third stage of the lesson is called a first reading stage. And then we have the second reading stage. And those two stages, they ultimately test comprehension, whether or not your learners have understood what they've just read. And then the final stage, one of my favorites, is the follow-on speaking task. So now your students need to have the opportunity to really just relate to the text, talk about the text, talk about the topics, relate the topics of the text to their own lives. That's the speaking stage. So just to recap, we've got the lead-in or the warm-up, the vocabulary pre-teach stage, the first reading stage, the second reading stage, and then, of course, that follow-on speaking stage, which really gives them the opportunity to communicate. Right. So now that we have broken down the stages of a reading lesson, let's look at how these fit into the structure of the assignment, right? So in the assignment, we give you 3 texts. So a story, a bit of factual text, a narrative. We give you 3 texts in the assignment, and we've named them very technically named text 1, text 2, and text 3. And for these various texts, you are to plan different stages of the reading lesson. And each stage is based on a different text, and vice versa. Each text is designed for a different group of students. The reason we've done that is, say, for example, we give you just one lesson plan to create for one class, one age group, one level. That only gives you experience to create a lesson for that one particular kind of group. We want to give you the opportunity to consider ages, backgrounds, level, and for this reason, we've broken things up a little bit. So, as mentioned, we've given you 3 texts, and for each text, we're asking you to create and focus on a particular stage of the reading lesson. Now, if this doesn't make sense yet, don't worry, it will absolutely make sense as we go along. So let's look first at the 3 texts and what you are meant to be doing with them, right? So the very first text is text 1. And text 1, say for example, it's, a bit of interesting information written in the form of an article or something like that. What we want you here with this particular text to do is to focus on the vocabulary pre-teach stage of the reading lesson. So remember earlier we went through the 5 stages of the reading lesson: the lead-in warmer, the vocabulary pre-teach, first reading, second reading, follow on speaking task. So for text 1, we are asking you to create an activity for that vocabulary pre-teach stage. So this text and its tasks test your ability to select vocabulary that is suitable for a particular level, and then also what you will sound like when you teach these words to your students. So what we need you to do here is look at the piece of text, know that you're going to be designing the vocabulary pre-teach stage of the lesson. And the first thing that we need you to do is select 6 items of vocabulary from that text that you think would be necessary to pre-teach these students before they read the text. So the first part of the template, as mentioned, it's a table. And it's a table that has 6 spaces, and in those spaces, you need to list 6 items of vocabulary that you think would be necessary to pre-teach from text 1. Ideally, you've got to pretend that the warmer and lead-in have been done, and now you're on that stage of vocabulary pre-teach. Table, 6 items of vocabulary. And then further down on the template, below the table, you'll find a section called Teacher Language for 2 items. And that's exactly what we want here. This section is meant to test your ability to grade your language, to elicit words rather than just reveal them, to teach pronunciation, and to concept check. But now you're thinking, how? How are they going to do that? I've got to type. I can't really speak. I can't record myself and send it to them. So how are they going to test my ability to do that, right? So what we want you to do here is to select 2 words from your table and then write a dialogue. Basically, think of it like a script between you and your students, showing us how you would teach those 2 words. Got to be in direct speech, written as a script, an actual dialogue between you and your class. And also note that on the template, we have provided you with an example dialogue for an unrelated word, and you can use this dialogue as guidance. Don't remove it. Do not copy from this dialogue word for word, but definitely use it as inspiration. I like to see dialogues that have been organized where it's T for teacher, ST for students, so that I know exactly what the teacher will be saying versus what the students will be saying. So ideally, you're writing us a script showing us how you would teach 2 of the words from your vocabulary pre-teach table. And we've got different headings where we want you to show how you would elicit the word. We've got a separate heading where we want you to focus on pronunciation, and a last heading to show us how you would ask a few concept questions to check final understanding of that word before you move on to your next word. All in direct speech. This is a must. We need to almost hear what you will sound like when you pre-teach these words. All right, so a few tips for text 1, and this is quite important. You've got to fill in all the categories on the table. You cannot leave anything. You've got to fill in everything. Adhere to the word limits as best you can. Remember that we've got a 10% leeway, right? So you can either go 10% over or be 10% under. That's fine too. But try as best to stick to the word count requirements. These are quite important. And the reason for this is because when we pre-teach words, we are doing it within a stage, within a lesson. So it cannot be too long, but it of course has got to be comprehensive enough so that your students understand what is presented. So that's why we set the word limits, and we need for you to adhere to them as best you can. All right, so just to rehash and to go over those tips one more time, fill in all the categories on the table, try your best to adhere to the word limits. Your dialogues further down, the teacher language dialogues must be in direct speech, and you've got to write a few student responses so that we can actually see the exchange between you and your students. And remember, there is an example on the template to guide you. We do not just give instructions without giving examples. And if you're confused, you know what to do. Contact us at Tutor Support and we will hold your hand and clarify everything that is unclear. All right, so I promised you we were going to go through all 3 texts, and now we are looking at text 2. So remember, you had text 1 and you had to design the vocabulary pre-teach stage using text 1. Now we're giving you a separate text, right? Maybe it's a story. Maybe it's a factual bit of information that you would find in a guidebook or in an encyclopedia, right? So now we've given you a second text, and we want you to pretend that you've already done the warmer. You've already taught the vocabulary in the vocabulary pre-teach stage. Now you are designing stages 3 and 4, namely the first and the second reading tasks, right? So these have got to involve questions to really test understanding of a piece of text, specifically the text provided. Remember, in this assignment, you are not meant to go and find your own text. They've all been provided for you, right? And this part of the assignment also tests knowledge on various reading skills like skimming, scanning, and intensive reading. Skimming and scanning are usually done in the first reading, while intensive reading is done in the second reading, stage 4. And skimming and scanning questions are to test an overall understanding and the ability to find a detail quickly, respectively, while intensive reading, well, these are your questions that ask why. Why does the writer say this in the text? How does the writer explain the process of this and that? What do you think the reasons are? So even though the questions ask why and how, the answers need to be somewhere embedded in the text. But that's what comprehension questions are about at the end of the day. So just to quickly recap, text 2 tests stage 3 and 4, which is the first and second reading tasks. Right, so we're still on text 2. And the very first activity in text 2, as mentioned earlier, is the first reading. And here we ask you to include 2 questions, 1 skimming and 1 scanning. So see, we're very particular about what we want you to do. We don't leave you to your own devices here trying to figure out what to include. we ask for it. We're very direct that way. So a skimming question and a scanning question. And these have got to be put into a very particular part of the template, but it is all crystal clear on where this has to go, right? So as mentioned, the template asks for two aspects basically. And for the first part, it is skimming and scanning for the first reading activity. And with skimming and scanning, think about your questions that ask, what is the writer trying to say in general? Is this the type of writing that you would find in a factual book? Is it a story? What is this? Does the story sound like a positive experience or a negative experience? So those would be your first reading questions, skimming and scanning. Right. And now we get to the second reading. And again, remember that on the template, we have, in fact, put a space for your second reading questions. And what we want you to do is write the task. And the task here literally means the questions that you have designed. So as mentioned in the first reading, there'll be two questions, a skimming and a scanning. And in the second reading, there will be 7 to 10 comprehension questions that you've created. And with the 7 to 10 comprehension questions, these questions, as mentioned earlier, have got to be quite detailed. They ask why, they ask how, they ask you to find evidence in the text. It's a little bit deeper, it's a bit meatier, and it makes your students really, really have to understand the message in the text and the language devices that are used also. All right. Also in the second reading, as mentioned, it's got to test a deeper understanding through intensive reading. So the idea is to avoid scanning questions for the second reading. Remember, skimming and scanning, first reading. Intensive reading, comprehension questions, second reading. All right, so when it comes to text 3 is a slightly different approach because now we actually give you a cutout from a lesson plan and we're asking you to fill in, sorry, my slides are jumping around a little bit. Okay. So text 3, we ask you to focus on a very particular part of the lesson plan, and this is the follow-on speaking stage. So the follow-on speaking stage, if you think about it, is that final stage in a reading lesson. And we want you to use text 3 to design the follow-on speaking stage. And the follow-on speaking stage, you've really got to take yourself through the lesson plan now, and you've got to think, okay, so by the time I'm designing a follow-on speaking stage, my learners have already done the warmer, they've done the vocabulary pre-teach, they've done the first reading, they've done the second reading. So this is essentially that final stage of the reading lesson. So plan that accordingly. Do not be greeting your students at the start of this stage because they've been with you throughout the whole lesson. This is the final stage, right? That follow-on speaking stage. And what you've got to do here, what we ask you to do here is to design 2 activities for speaking, natural conversation that fit into this 20-minute stage. And we've asked you to design 2 of these, 10 minutes, 10 minutes. And the reason for this is because the level of the student for this particular part of the assignment is pretty low. And you can't really ask a student to be speaking about a topic for 20 minutes. It's too much. So what we do is we divide. We create 2 speaking activities, one of 10 minutes and another of 10 minutes. And that's exactly what we want you to do here. Right, so how do we want you to fill in the template here? If you look at the template section for text 3, as mentioned earlier, you will see a cutout of a lesson plan, right? And we want you to fill in your 2 tasks, your 2 speaking activities on this lesson plan. And please note the information required on the lesson plan. There's timing, there's interaction, there's teacher activity versus student activity. And all these have got to be filled in. Quite important to remember this one because, as mentioned earlier, it is that final stage of the reading lesson. So fill in all the tasks, fill in all the required information, make sure that you design 2 speaking activities and no more reading. Remember, by the time your students are doing the follow-on, they've done all the reading, they've answered the comprehension questions. There is no more reading to do. It's all about fluency and speaking. Also, no more vocabulary tasks. So think about activities like role plays. Think about activities like pair work conversations. Think about group discussions. Think about simulation tasks, negotiations. So think about all those natural speaking activities and how you can get your students to respond to the text verbally with their own ideas, thoughts, and their personal experiences. It's all about fluency with Text 3. So in Text 3, we also give you a bit of guidance on the type of target language we want your students to produce. We've noted that we want them to focus on frequency adverbs, using particular tenses, but they've got to use this in a free and communicative way, right? And we also want you to provide some support because when we have low-level students, especially even higher-level students, it's impossible just to tell them to talk about a topic. That is not quite enough. You've got to give them prompts. You've got to give them support and guidance. This can be in the form of imagery to prompt conversation. This can be in the form of keywords, sentence stems, discussion questions. Those are my favorite. I absolutely love them. If you're planning a role play, design role play cards or pages where they've got the role given to them, and they also have the scenario that they've got to act out. But these support structures have got to be included in your assignment too. So remember, in the lesson plan section, you're writing what you're going to be doing, and in the materials section, you'll be providing us with all the necessary materials, your imagery, your keywords, your sentence stems, your role play cards, discussion questions, and so on. And you will be designing this lesson plan in a way that it's so clear that when we read it, we can actually see exactly what it is you're going to be doing, and we can visualize this task and visualize how things are going to go in a real lesson. So just a few tips for Text 3. Please note, or in general, all of them, note the level of each text that we give you. Text 1, there's a particular level and age group for that text. Text 2, again, a particular level and age group, more or less. And then Text 3, also very important to note the level of the students you are going to be creating the task for. That's so important, right? Because if you create tasks that are graded too high for the level of students you're teaching, your students feel lost. They feel unmotivated, and they also feel like the task is not achievable. So it's very important to note the level. Age, just as important, because imagine you're teaching adults, but you give them very child-centric imagery to work with. They may not respond to that very well or be able to relate to it. So again, pay attention to level and age. Also note that level and age are not always related. You could have beginners who are adults, and you can have advanced learners who are children. So just be mindful of that when planning your tasks. Also, note your word limits. We've put them there for a reason. We've got that 10% leeway. So if you go 10% over, 10% under, that's absolutely okay. This is a very important point. Use only our templates provided on the assignment page and write only in the blank areas provided. So download the templates just as they are. Open them up and start typing specifically where we ask you to type. Do not remove instructions. You don't have to remove examples. Just type in the blank sections that we've left there for you. And then when you are ready to submit and upload your assignment, please make sure that you convert this to PDF, because our system will only accept PDFs. That's just for security for you to know that as you submit is exactly how we receive it on the other side. So remember, level of the text, pay attention to that. Age of the students for each text, word limits must be adhered to, and also use only our templates, which must be converted to PDF format when you're ready to submit. A few more tips for all three texts. Note that note the stage of the reading lesson that particular text is linked to. This is something so important. I very often receive assignments to mark, and that text 3, the one that we discussed most recently, the follow-on speaking tasks. I very often get assignments where the student has said, I will greet the students, right? But if you really think about it, that's the follow-on speaking stage. It's the final stage of the lesson. No need to greet them. They've been with you the whole day, or the whole lesson at least. So just pay attention to what stage of the reading lesson that text is related to. Remember, all teacher language, all the words spoken by the teacher that we ask you, those dialogues, those scripts that we ask you to write, they must be in direct speech. The reason for this is we need to be able to almost hear what you will sound like, the words you will use to address your students. And remember, questions are welcome at Tutor Support. We are very happy when students rather check in with us first to ask, right, I'm not clear on this particular instruction. Can you clarify this for me? Or the assignment says this, but the template says this. Can you please clarify this discrepancy? We will be more than happy to do that for you. Something we cannot do is preview assignment work before you submit. This is very important for you to know, because we give each student 3 attempts per assignment, and asking us to preview your files on Tutor Support sort of gives you another go and really just gives you an unfair advantage. So we do ask that you refrain from asking us to preview your files, but rather send us questions to clarify instructions, to clarify little bits and pieces on the assignment. More than happy to do that. We also can't approve tasks. Like, you can't, for example, ask us, right, this is what I want to do. This is how long it's going to be. This is what I'm going to say. What do you think about this? In a way, it is asking us to preview your work. So rather just send us questions, and yes, we'll be more than happy to assist you. All right, so a few more tips, lots of tips today. Include all imagery and materials in the designated space on the template. There is a section on the template that literally says materials. That's where you put it. Any imagery that you'll use, any little, like if you've planned a role play, for example, for text 3, you can include those role play cards there. I like it when they're simply made on MS Word with a couple of pictures, a prompt, cut out, copy, paste. That's exactly what we need. If you've arranged some sort of sentence stem activity, that's where you can type it. If you're going to be using imagery to prompt conversation, that's where you can place these. So there is a material section for all these things. Also, you've got to provide a bibliography. This is a legal requirement, but also helps you track and trace your work. Anything you might have found useful, you'll be able to go back to and find. Also, it gives us the understanding that you've gone through the effort of researching, of finding information, and also dating it so that we can see when last you've accessed it. If you're not sure how to reference your resources, on the assignment page, if you look, there's a link for assessment handbook, I think, or assessment student handbook. In there, you'll find a section specifically dedicated to referencing, which shows you exactly how we'd like things to be referenced with what sort of detail. But if you can't find this, again, contact us at Tutor Support and we will happily send this to you. Also, proofread your work for mistakes, because remember, this is a TEFL course, right? It's about teaching English. Your English, first and foremost, has got to be strong and accurate. So make sure that your work is free of mistakes. Proofread everything. Also, if you do find that you've made a few mistakes, proofread everything. I know that it takes a little bit of time, but it is worth it, because our assignments are not only marked for the application and understanding of TEFL concepts, but also for accuracy. As a teacher, you need to know your stuff. So we do need that your work is as accurate as possible. So please proofread. Also, we've got the copy leaks system embedded in our course, which means that when you are ready to submit, your work will be put through our copy leaks scanner. And what this does is it detects plagiarism and also AI content. And remember, we have a 30% limit for both of these. So if your work is over, please don't submit it. If your work is over and you really can't understand why, you can also contact us at Tutor Support and we will happily take a look at your report and at your assignment and tell you where to rewrite or to revise your work so that it is more authentically your work, 100%. All right. Okay, so I think I've said enough, but just to recap, the assignment is based on a reading lesson. But instead of asking you for one lesson plan, we're giving you 3 texts. For text 1, we want you to focus on the vocabulary pre-teach stage of a reading lesson. For text 2, we want you to focus on the comprehension stages, 3 and 4, which is your first reading and your second reading. And then finally, for text 3, we're asking you to design your fluency activities for the follow-on speaking task. Not one activity only, but 2. All these instructions are on the assignment page. All the areas where you've got to type have been included on the template. There, it's very, very clear, but it's a lot sometimes, right? So if you open up the template and it does seem too overwhelming, again, contact us at Tutor Support. We'll even take screenshots, draw little arrows, show you where you've got to type something. It's not a problem for us. That's what we do. So if anything in the assignment just seems a little bit overwhelming, the first thing is not to stress. We will help you all the way through. All right, so as promised, it is Q&A time. And now it's your opportunity to send us any questions that you may have about the assignment. Now, remember, as mentioned at the start of this webinar, I will be focusing only on Level 5 Assignment A. I will not be answering questions about the Level 3 assignments. I will not be answering questions about Assignment B and C. And the reason for this is it might confuse another person who is listening and taking notes and just trying to get a hang on this assignment. So please, now is the time to ask your questions. Type them in the chat. I can already see a couple have come in. That's fantastic. Please put your questions in there right now so that as soon as I'm done answering the first one, I can get to the second one, answering as many as I need to and as I can today. So I see our first question has already come in. Thank you for your question. Is it Asil? Right? So before, and I'm so sorry if I mispronounce your name. Before submitting an assignment, there's a specific way I should label the assignment. Example, name, assignment number. Right, so this here is also, you'll find this in that assessment handbook I mentioned earlier. But just let me see if it'll actually work if I type it in. I hope so. So this is a general format that we that we accept. So this is, if my memory serves me well today, this is more or less what we need, right? Also, of course, with assignment A, there's only one template that you have to submit. So this is sufficient. However, if you are doing another assignment later on where there is more than one template, then also include the name of the template itself in the assignment name. But this should suffice for assignment A. And again, you can find this on the assignment page. Specifically, if you click on student handbook or assessment handbook, it's right there. And again, if you can't find it at the end of the day, send us a message to tutor support and we will happily send that to you. All right. Excuse me. So Mel wants to know, where do I find the word limit for the assignment? So Mel, the whole assignment doesn't have a word limit per se. There are specific sections within the assignment where word limits have been specified. And don't stress, Mel, they're on the template. So say, for example, you get to text 1, teacher language, where you've got to type that dialogue, that script between you and your students. We will specify there. Each dialogue must be around 200 words. So the whole assignment as such doesn't have a word limit. Specific areas within the assignment have word limits. I hope that helps. All right. Please remember, I will only be answering questions about level 5 assignment A. All right. So Geeta's got a question for us. I have done the assignment and it was very interesting. Nice. My advice to you is be careful about which file converter you choose, because some Word to PDF apps just erase the charts given. Right. So Geeta, yes, this is such useful advice, because a lot of our students send us messages saying my tables have been messed up or the template is completely distorted. So yes, if you are struggling with anything technical, please send it to us and we will give you a bit of advice. Or if it is really something that we cannot deal with in tutor support, we will send you along to our tech department and they'll be able to talk you through anything that is too technical. Right. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so please send those questions in. I'm hoping that I haven't missed. Oh, okay, some more have come in. Okay, so let's see. Sharifa wants to know, and thank you for your question, how long will assignment level 5A take? Can we pause and come back to it? Right, so Level 5 assignment A, as you can see in this webinar, there are 3 sections that you've got to complete. But Sharifa, it's very difficult for me to say it takes so-and-so amount of time. And that's because different students have got different other things going on. Some students are working full-time and they come and work on the assignment a little bit for an hour per night, maybe for the week. It's going to take you a few hours to do. I will give you that, because a little bit of research is going to be involved. You're going to maybe have to find some materials online, some pictures you'd like to use, so there's a little bit of work to do. So it's a few hours of work. Some people take a little bit longer. Some people fly through the assignments. But to answer that second part of your question, can we pause and come back to it? Absolutely, you can. So assignment A is released after Unit 5. On the course, right? So once you've got access to the assignment, so you've completed your end of unit test and you're ready to access assignment A, you've got the instructions. You can now work on the assignment and you can continue to unit 6. You are able to continue with the other units while you work on assignment A. But Sharifa, what I am going to suggest, and this, to all of you listening out there, this is my opinion. You might feel differently. I do feel that it is better to do the assignments as they pop up in the course. So at the end of Unit 5, Assignment A comes up, get on with Assignment A, right? Then you get to end of Unit 7, Assignment B pops up there, tackle assignment B. Then you get to unit 10 and assignment C pops up at the end of that unit. And that's exactly when you should do it. The reason is because the assignments are basically a culmination of the preceding units. So the units 1 to 5 kind of comes together in that assignment, and so on and so on. A lot of our students also find that if they leave all the assignments for too late in the course, that they run out of time. And remember, as stipulated on the course, assignments can only be uploaded one at a time. So you upload one assignment, we mark the assignment, you have to wait for the results, and you've got to pass that assignment before you move on to the next assignment. So you can't upload 2 assignments at one time and wait for them, and you cannot get started on the next assignment while you are still waiting for that previous one to be marked. And for that reason, I always suggest do them as they come up and then get on to the next one, if that helps. Also remember that the final assignment, assignment C, must be uploaded at least 2 weeks before your course ends. And that's to give us marking time and also to give you time so that if you've got to resubmit for any reason, you've got the time to do that before your course ends. All right, Sharifa, I hope that helps. But again, if you're looking for guidance, just a little bit of extra help, someone to hold your hand during that assignment, you know where to find us. Tutor Support, we've got you back. All right, any more questions, please send them through. I'm just going back to check and see if I've not forgotten or passed anyone. There is a question here about level 3. I see it. Right, so the level 3 course, you'll be receiving access to that pretty soon. When will I start? Contact Student Services, because if you can't access your course for some reason, they will be able to provide you with the correct details and you'll be able to get on as soon as possible. We want to get you started. And Attila, it's going to be fun for you because you'll be able to watch all the level 3 assignments also and get as much help for those as possible. Right, so I'm still waiting for those questions. If you don't ask me questions, I'm just going to assume that everyone understood everything and you're all going to pass the assignment first time. So if there are any questions, please send them. All right. You're welcome. You're welcome. Deborah, you're welcome too. Absolutely. But ask me questions. I'm here, people. Ask. All right. Let me check if I've not missed anything. All right. It doesn't look like it. So it looks like we might actually be finishing a little bit early, but I know how it goes. You'll be watching this webinar, and again, because you'll be more than welcome to do that, the webinars do get released a day or two after they are recorded, and you'll be able to watch and rewatch and rewatch. But those of you who have also got other questions about other assignments or other courses, remember there are other webinars already on our YouTube channel, so you can absolutely watch those too, and I highly recommend them. I watch them sometimes. All right, so if there are no further questions, just a reminder that to repeat that all these webinars are available. You'll be able to watch them and rewatch them as many times as you'd need to. They're all available on our YouTube channel. If you can't find the webinars or you can't find a particular one that you're looking for, send us a ticket to Tutor Support and we will send you a link. As mentioned, this webinar will be available in a few days or so, and then you can watch and rewatch as many times as you need to. Also, we'd like to know how you feel about today's webinar, whether you found it useful. We would absolutely appreciate your feedback and your input, right? So I'm going to be putting the survey link into the chat, but also it is displayed on the screen right now. All right, you should be receiving the survey link in a second. Please fill that in. It really gives us a little bit of guidance on how to improve our webinars and just to make them better for you, because that's the whole aim. And remember, these webinars are included in your course. They do not come at an extra cost, so just enjoy them and attend them. And if you can't attend them at the given time, you can absolutely watch them later at your convenience. All right, so it looks like that is it for the day. It was absolutely wonderful having you all here from all these different parts of the world. It was a lot of fun. Please join next week, same time, same place, an entirely different topic, something interesting, something really, really useful. So again, thanks for joining. And remember, next week, same time, same place, different tutor, but I'll see you next time. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Take care.